Haiti is a very relevant nation when it comes to the history of revolutions. Led by Toussaint Louverture and Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Haitians fought against their French colonists in 1803, and they were victorious. And this is one of the only instances in history where slaves actually managed to overthrow their colonial overlords. So, in a moment of unity where Haitians fought alongside one another, there was hope for a better future of freedom. However, today it's a different story. If many people know Haiti for one thing today, it's a state which is unfortunately rife with corruption, poverty, and disease. And this continues as it's plunged into anarchy and its government loses its grip on the country. My name is John, and I'm a second-year undergrad at King's College London, and I study history and international relations. And I'm going to be discussing a little bit about the backstory of my article, which I wrote, called Rebuilding Haiti, A Struggle of Resilience. So I've always had a massive interest in the Americas. I actually took a course on Latin American history this year, and I've also been particularly fascinated by French colonization and how that interacts with new cultures, especially Creole culture, which is born out of colonization. So originally I was actually listening to Haitian music a couple years ago. There's this album called Haiti Direct, which is Haitian music from the 60s and 70s. It was really fun to listen to with elements of Western jazz, African traditional elements in the music, and all that packaged with a Caribbean flair. So I really enjoyed that, and my interest in Haiti continued to develop from there. And I wanted to know more. How did this nation end up like this? And how are the people dealing with this? It's a real tragedy that such a vibrant nation has been victim to neo-colonialism and corrupt politicians and failed foreign interventions. So this is a relevant topic, and it's quite shocking what I found out during my research. I learned that following its independence in 1825, France demanded 150 million francs. So in 2020 terms, that's about $21 billion. And for reference, Haiti's GDP in 2020 was $14 billion. So I was really shocked to see this, the injustice. I grew up in France, so I went through the French education system. And in history classes, we glossed over this. This was the first time I'd heard of this, and I was very shocked. With the aftermath of the 2010 earthquake, hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives, and it devastated the country's infrastructure, which was then further exacerbated by its existing vulnerabilities with corruption and poverty. And the lack of effective governments really hindered the recovery efforts, and it left so many people suffering. So during my research, reading those stories, those accounts of those people was very humbling, and it raises a lot of existential questions about the international community, the role of government, and its place in our lives. And it's a difficult topic because when you're researching it, there are no simple solutions. If there was an easy solution, we probably would have done it by now. I like to think. Maybe I'm not too optimistic, but it gives the conflict a lot of dimension because there's these real dilemmas. We can't just chuck money at the issue because there's corrupt politicians. We've done that. Haiti receives a lot of money in aid, but it's more than just about throwing money at something. And as previous US interventions years before have shown, we can't just send in a foreign army either. So it's this really difficult topic, and it's hard to know what to do. So from that, it was interesting because when we had to write the article, we had to bear in mind the 7 human needs. And I had never heard of the 7 human needs before, but it was really interesting learning about them because it creates a new framework for understanding not just this conflict, but conflicts all over. So there was a quote from doctors discussing the 7 human needs. So it's about understanding and satisfying your own fundamental human needs, and that's how you develop a sense of meaning in your life. So we need to satisfy these needs to develop meaning. So in the case of this article, I won't go over all the needs, but I looked at the needs of self-actualization, and another need is also that of survival, which is also relevant. So in the case of Haiti, it's what can you do? There are no easy solutions, As 360,000 people displaced by violence, it's difficult for Haitians to self-actualize because there's no stable government, there's no social safety nets, there is none of this infrastructure. And I think we take a stable government for granted, at least I do. I've lived, in first world countries with stable governments, and you take it for granted. So what do you do when you take that out of the equation? How do you pursue a job when there's violence and there's no police to stop it, when there's no state to control that, for example? And our ability to reach one's full potential is made easier by a safe environment, but Haitians must try to reach their personal goals while also navigating this unstable environment. So it was very sobering doing my research for this. And meaningful work, for example, satisfies most of the 7 human needs, including self-actualization. But Haiti's poor infrastructure and crime makes working a job very difficult, and subsequently satisfying our basic human needs very difficult. So I really enjoyed working on this article, and it raises a lot of interesting questions about the role of government, foreign interventions, and the place that they have in our lives. But also learning about the personal stories of Haitians on the ground was very humbling, and it was fascinating learning about human resilience and the lengths that people go to despite conflict, what people do and how they deal with it in the face of adversity. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy reading my article. Thanks.